Hey, welcome back to the State of Love and Trust. It's episode 309. And this week we welcome back to the show our friend and vocalist of Dead Pioneers, Gregg Deal. Now, Dead Pioneers have a brand new album coming out very, very soon. It's called Wagon Burner. And we've heard it, and quite frankly, it's, earmuffs. It f***s. So we're going to get into the songwriting process, the commentary, political, cultural, and everything in between. It's a hell of a conversation, and it's with...
I'm Gregg Deal with Dead Pioneers, and you are listening to the State of Love and Trust.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the State of Love and Trust podcast. I'm one of your two hosts, Jason Kerepesi, and alongside me, as always, is...
Paul Ghiglieri.
Everybody, we have a fantastic episode, an interview ahead with one of our favorite friends and musicians, Gregg Deal of Dead Pioneers. But first, I must implore you to feed the algorithm. I'm stealing your term just for this 1 second. For everybody here on YouTube, to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications. It really, really does help, I assure you. You know why? Because the analytics told me. So please help the analytics, won't you? These analytics only need $1 a day. Anyways, sorry. Paul, if they're listening only, what should they do?
They should rate, review, and subscribe on their preferred podcast platform of choice. As Jason so eloquently said, feed that algorithm, lest it appropriate you and you lose your soul.
Oh, boy. That was a good one. I like that one. I guess
a little segue into some deeper conversation that we're excited to have here on the what is it over here? State of Love and Trust.
There it is. Yeah. Before we get to our wonderful chat with our friend Gregg, please, if you are a fan of this show, there are many links below to follow us on the social media where we have all kinds of clips and other content we have there to augment what we do here in the long form, as they say. And if you are a big fan of the show, there is Patreon, fabulous community over there in the Discord channel, Discord server, I should say, and a pod shop with all kinds of cool stuff to buy to support the show. And we appreciate everybody who has done that already. And I don't have anything else to say. What?
Do. I got one quick plug. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'm going to switch. Listen, you're about to hear at least 2 examples of what would easily serve as an exemplary commencement speech at a graduation. I mean, it is like 5-star precision when it comes to insights and thoughts. So I implore you, stick this one out because Gregg Deal he's about to drop some diamond dimes that are worth hearing.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm excited. I'm going to stick around. Oh, wait, I have to. Anyways, here it is, our chat with the one and only Gregg Deal of Dead Pioneers. This week's guest is more than the frontman of Dead Pioneers. He's an artist and activist using music as a form of confrontation. With Dead Pioneers, he brings an indigenous perspective to a genre built on rebellion, challenging the myths and power structures shaping American identity. Their new album, Wagon Burner, is sharp, urgent, and unflinching. Punk, not as nostalgia, but as protest. Welcome back to the show, a returning champion, Paul. It's Gregg Deal.
What's up, fellas?
We are privileged and honored. One of these days, we might have you on enough times where you can punch a sandwich card.
I do like a good sandwich.
What's your favorite?
Well, I was in LA this last weekend and had Fat Sal's.
Oh, yeah.
And they are gratuitous. I didn't have to eat for about 24 hours after having one of those sandwiches. But
it's not just the name, Gregg.
Yeah. No, it was pretty amazing.
We've got a few folks who are very close to the free sandwich. One of them is, I'm sure you know him, Jeff Whitman, tour photographer for Pearl Jam. Yeah. He's like right on the cusp. So I have to make sure I know everybody's order ahead of their 5th appearance.
Yeah.
So then I'll mail him a sandwich and it'll be really awkward and gross.
I'm a fan of Geoff. He's a good dude.
Geoff.
He is a good dude. Dude, let's talk about this new record because
Wagon Burner.
You allowed me the opportunity to listen to it weeks and weeks ago, and I told Paul, I go, dude, this new Dead Pioneers is gonna fucking rip, and it's no lie. I'm very excited about it, and I think that is a title that is impossible to ignore. I need to know, what conversations were you hoping to start the moment someone sees that title before they've even heard a single note of this album?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because in this is a weird start to the conversation. In the realm of racial slurs, like the discussion about what that is, like everybody knows what those things are, and they're familiar with it. But there's something about Indigenous people where it is so sort of systemically in place that there's not really much thought on what a racial slur is. I mean, you hear the term, prairie N-word, and like that's an in your face. We're all familiar with the N-word, and so that's really the only thing that is egregious. But to call us savages, to call us godless, to call us dirty and primitive and wagon burner, which all of these are, in effect slurs. They're derogatory at best. And wagon burner is a very specific one, rooted in westward expansion, as folks who are, settler colonials are part of the expansion westward, and they're coming into native territories, and native people are essentially defending their homelands. And so wagon burner became this thing. And in my mind, it's kind of removed from the vernacular of what someone might consider a true slur.
Right.
So there's room for reclamation there. But in what was that film? The one that Leonardo DiCaprio just did, that doesn't mean anything. Like,
well, Paul would know. He's a fun guy.
There's the Scorsese one.
Yeah. So, but the in that film, there's a white supremacist in there, and there's a Native American bounty hunter who's played by Eric Schwig, who is the brother of Daniel Day-Lewis in Last of the Mohicans. And the guy calls him a wagon burner, like straight up just calls him a wagon burner. And so like, that's probably the first time I've heard that in a really long time. But to me, it just feels like a reclamation, sort of a statement on, something that has existed in history and says what it says.
I want to ask you, Greg, there's an implied, I don't want to call it a responsibility, but you talked about reclamation. There's an education that I think accompanies a lot of your work as an Indigenous artist. You've done spoken word speeches all over the place for a while now. So but as an Indigenous artist, have you ever felt pressure to be an educator when all you wanted to be was an artist? And if so, how do you navigate that tension? Or do you think for you, they go hand in hand and complement each other?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I feel zero responsibility to educate. But I know it's a byproduct of just bringing something to the table that people don't know or don't understand. I'm smart enough and knowledgeable enough that I can inform the things that I'm saying so I can give it context. Yeah. Right. But I've had works where people are like, well, what does this mean? And I'll just be like, I don't know, figure it out. Like, you have Google, you can look it up. And I think more it's living in that place of emotional labor. If I'm able to do it and willing to do it, I'll do it. But I also understand that the emotional labor that comes with educating everybody, explaining everything, making up for your own inability to understand things because you haven't taken the time to understand the history or anything that goes with it is a lot. And I've and with full love and respect, I've had arguments with a bandmate over that and what that looks like, because there is, I think, outside of marginalized groups, there's kind of a belief in terms of sharing and in terms of allyship and trying to bring people over to your side. And I don't necessarily feel responsibility to that. I kind of live in that unapologetic place.
Yeah, man, there's almost
strange,
like this.
It's strange.
I mean, like, let's say you paint a sunset, right? And then somebody's looking at this and saying, "Well, is he implying the sun is setting on an indigenous people? Is there implication that the sun is setting on the oppression of indigenous?" It's like,
is it a sunrise?
Or maybe I saw it. It was beautiful, so I painted it. You know what I mean? And so I think there's an unfair. Sometimes I can see how your humanity deserves the opportunity to just exist, as opposed to it having to be categorized or your work having to somehow serve the greater purpose of messaging, which it can. Like you can absolutely do so if you so choose. But I think that it undermines the integrity and ambition of your work to assume, I think, that all of it has to educate, when the reality is that it's your prerogative to decide what you want to use to educate and what you don't.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is why representation is so important, right? Because if there was proper representation, there would be less questions about the context of things. We were in Germany, we were in Munich, and I guess there's like a legacy punk guy. I don't remember his name. And he left a bunch of things in our dressing room. Some Native American children's toys, teepee, warrior, an illustration from when he was young, and a letter that, if I remember right, was sort of explaining like his feelings about indigenous people of North America and his sort of the role that it played in his youth, and that it meant something to him, but use words like the noble savage, and so like it started an argument because on his side, like, and he wasn't there, he just left it there, but what it ended up being this weird place of what I call absolution, where somebody who I think is trying to put their best foot forward, but is putting the burden of responsibility of their misunderstanding and their desire to be absolved of their past sins onto me, which requires me to explain, and it requires me to inform, and it made me mad. And so the discussion was, well, why don't you explain it to him? It's like, I don't need to explain it to him. And like, there's that emotional labor again. But at the same time, like, I have this performance art piece that I did in 2018 with my oldest kid, Sage. And so they were part of it, where we're wearing regalia, traditional regalia. It's all in black. So the beadwork's black, the leatherwork's black, the ribbon work's black. Like, everything is just black on black, which is not common for dance regalia. And we had done this because it was a viable piece of art informed by my perception of a native person, but also informed by powwow culture and things that I've seen and witnessed, and created a performance piece around that. So it's not ceremonial. It's a piece of performance art. And when I was done, all of the, I mean, let's be honest, all the white people that were there, they were asking questions, and they were like, well, what does this mean? And what does that mean? And like, they were reading into things that had nothing to do with anything. I mean, one question was, I noticed that when you were dancing, that there was this point where you were stepping, and then all of a sudden you did like an extra step. What does that mean? And I'm like, it means I have terrible rhythm. Like, it doesn't mean anything. And so that's a situation where it can inform it, because honestly, in some twisted way, what you think is just so deep is not. And I kind of think it's funny to deflate that a little bit. But yeah, the level of participation that we are allotted is is not equal. It's not great. But also on the other end, like what's normal for me today might be brand new for you. And, you know, like when I was fighting the mascot debate living in Washington, D.C., there was somebody that had publicly said, oh, he's only talking about this because it's relevant to his career, without understanding that I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I have children. And that my fight against the mascot debate as it relates to my children as being a father, like, is an everyday thing. I have to coach my kids not to talk about the things that we talk about in our home because a fellow student might give them a hard time, or than what I was really actually concerned about. An educator might decide that their fandom is more important than them being an educator, and they might bully my child. So the reality is that this is a lived reality, whether you know about it or not, or understand it or not. And so my everyday thing, and just saying that out loud, might seem like education when really all I'm doing is articulating a truth that exists in plain sight.
Yeah. Do you think then that so it's not your responsibility to explain things, but do you think with so many of the provocative things that you vocalize on these songs, and especially on Wagon Burner, it being no exception, do you think that that art can change minds? I know it might not be your point, but can it? And or does it simply help people recognize things that they already know but haven't confronted yet?
Sure. I guess where I start is in a place of just wanting to do the thing. I want to say the thing. I want to articulate what I want to articulate. But I do accept the responsibility that comes with that. For Native people, I may be articulating a shared experience. I don't speak for Native people, but recognize the responsibility I have in articulating a shared experience and the connection a Native person might have, or even a non-Native person. I mean, in the case of Bad Indian, I think not living up to expectations and feeling like you don't belong is a pretty universal thing. And a lot of people connect with that song because of that. I accept that there's something there, that someone might be bringing something to the table. Maybe I've just articulated something in a way that you've never thought of it before. It helps you better understand. I accept that as part of the work, and the responsibility as a collateral aspect of the work, not a responsibility of me feeling that I have to educate the masses. I mean, my appearance alone is, I think, a really good example of this, because my hair's not long, it's not braided, I have facial hair. I don't spend as much time outside as I normally do, so maybe my skin is a little more fairer than someone might expect. And so because I don't live in these situations, I'm not wearing beadwork or feathers and doing all the things, my presentation immediately challenges those perceptions, which is just what it is. And so maybe that contributes to somebody being like, oh, well, maybe Native Americans look like all these other things and not just like broad noses and high cheekbones and, reddish brown skin. And so those things just sort of exist as a result, I think, of that. And it's an interesting byproduct of it. But I'm keen on challenging perceptions. So to your point, to your question, I want to mess with people because people are so ignorant of Indigenous people and Indigenous existence, and even just the nuance of culture, that it gives Native people in general, and me personally, some room to kind of mess with people and buck some of those ideas.
Gregg, I want to go back to your bad rhythm. Not literally.
Segue.
Not literally, but figuratively. You do a really nice job of blending some humor alongside the criticisms that you've been talking about here, or the social commentary in your work. And the lead single from the new album called Nazi Teeth comes to mind. What can humor accomplish that anger alone cannot?
I think it can make something approachable. I think I've always understood that. I mean, Native humor is a real thing. and it's dry, and it's biting and sarcastic, and usually, I mean, it catches me off guard too. I think it catches you off guard. It was really funny when my wife and I got married, because one of her superlatives in high school was class clown. Class clown and most athletic, so she's very popular. And for years I told her, I was like, no, I'm funny. She's like, you're not funny, like at all. And so all through college, like I started college right after we got married. And so all through college, I was having this discussion. And I went right after college, and I worked for the National Museum of American Indians. I was part of an all-Native staff. It was mostly Native women. And if you know anything about a good Native woman, they will humble you. They will knock you down a peg or two, whether you deserve it or not. And it's a lot of fun. But I worked there for 2 weeks around these hard ass women. And one day my wife is like, you're really funny, because I said, like, I had to be quick. You had to survive. You have to be quick. And she started realizing that, like, I was actually okay. And so the humor deserves context, but humor just, like, I know that it's important, and I know that it makes things more approachable, but I think it was 2013, maybe it was 2014. But I was on the Daily Show. I was part of an all-Native staff, or not staff, all-Native group that were talking about the mascot debate. And there was another group of people that were fans of the football team, of the Washington football team. And it was going back and forth. But, like, the thing that really struck me was how approachable it took this issue that was so volatile, and has just been living in talking points on the news and in, drunken vitriol at tailgate parties. Like, it just isn't being given quarter that allows any sort of approachability or discussion. And the Daily Show did this piece that was so wildly cool, because it created humor in the situation that allowed people, and I heard from people that were hardcore fans of the football team that watched that and were just like, oh, I get it now.
I get it now.
It creates an approachability that I think is really important.
It's the sugar for the medicine, if I can borrow Mary Poppins reference. Exactly.
Also, like, I can, it gives me a chance to mess with you. Like, Walking Eagle, that is fully messing with somebody. There's a song that's not on this record, and I'm hoping that we will be releasing it sometime in the next year or so, and it's called "Day in the Life of a White Supremacist," and it's a first person story.
First person
of a white supremacist who lives a life of total and complete justification. How do you drink that coffee that was harvested from a country of people that you're supposed to hate? You're driving a Japanese car. You get your Klan robes dry cleaned at a dry cleaners owned by a minority group of people that you don't like, that say, have a great day. And, like, you're responding, thanks. Oh, damn it. Like,
I'm going to channel something here for you, Greg. Here we go.
Do it.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him. So I love that. That's I love, because you're right. There's hypocrisy there, right?
The humor of it is I just think it's so wildly important, because it's also culture.
Yeah.
Humor is culture too. And so it can create that accessibility to it, makes it more palatable, but also it's culture.
It reminds me a little bit of Django Unchained. Do you know what I mean? How he approached that horrible. What? No, is it not? Is it not also like the way that he wrote that movie? Like, it's he uses humor to sort of retell a story that maybe didn't happen, or maybe it did happen, but we don't know about it. But he used a lot of humor in a hypocritical sort of way to make you digest the awful shit that was happening around those times. And it's a brilliant movie, but you find yourself kind of chuckling, even though it's like, oh shit, I'm consuming the reality.
I think a lot of the humor comes from just like the utter appalling lack of self-awareness on the part of the villainous characters, where it's like, how can you be this inhumane? And
Leo DiCaprio's character is like exactly that.
Yeah. There is a discussion about a white man directing a film about slavery, but that's a different podcast.
Oh,
no. I mean, you raise a point that well said.
That aside, anyway, that's a whole other discussion, my friend. Sorry, I brought it up. You brought it up. I know I did. God damn it. Okay, I want to read a lyric here. You claim to believe in something true, rebranding hate, but it's nothing new. This is a very pointed lyric, obviously, and I think it's directed very specifically at a group of people. And I think when you're creating something, I need to know, how do you decide who you're talking to? Like the people who are already understanding the perspective versus the people who just don't get it. How do you know how to point that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nazi Teeth has to be a song that does both.
Yeah.
If somebody who is of that ilk is hearing it, they need to know that we're talking about you.
Mm-hmm.
And for fans, or people that are like-minded, they need to understand, that these are the principles that we're talking about and why that's important. But I also think of it, like my wife's father and his family are ethnic Ukrainian, non-Jewish people that were picked up by Nazis, and they were put on trains and they were taken to Germany and they were put into labor camps, and they were liberated in Germany, and they came to this country with nothing. And how, like, looking at everything that's happening right now, certainly in the context of everything that has happened, and what does that look like and what does that sound like, and so the lyric itself is recognizing that there's just a repeat of the past that we should know better than to allow to come back full bore. So, yeah.
We should. I want to talk about these times with you for a second, because they're very strange and they're very difficult times. When you reference The Daily Show and some of the things that you've done, one could easily see you on a path of politics, on a path of a path of an educator, right? Various paths. But what is a truth that you feel artists are uniquely positioned to tell right now that other institutions like politics and media and even education might struggle to communicate?
I mean, I think artists are culture keepers above all else. I mean, for Native people, artists are in many communities considered to be medicine people. People that have an obligation to their medicine, and that you're obligated to create. You're obligated to keep culture and to do the things that need to be done. When you take a look at a lot of the policies that have come across conservative spaces where there is an understanding that they want to be, they always call it, fiscally responsible. But obviously we're seeing that that's not the case with this current administration, but like they'll cut things. And so the places that they cut are always, food and resources for people who don't have much, and the arts. And cutting the arts is really important because for them, because it is about controlling the narrative and eliminating imagination and free thought, and eliminating the people that will always create some sort of social mirror to shine back at you so you can see exactly what the problem is. We are a reminder of what's wrong and what needs to be right. And so I think that's really the most important thing for artists. You can see it in everybody, and even artists. Thomas Kincaid, famously painted pictures of, cabins in the woods and winter scenes, and like his lack of politics is a political statement. And likewise, you look at somebody like Pearl Jam, and their politics are pretty, like they're very poetic in the way that they sort of articulate it, but they're there. And if you take the time to engage it, they will tell you exactly what they think and exactly what they stand for. And those things are capturing a specific moment, but that moment's also rooted in, I think, a responsibility in the moral obligation that we have not just to right and wrong, but also to the people who don't have what they need and what they deserve to have as human beings. And so that's why I think music is such a working class thing. Like the connection that we have to it, particularly in something like punk rock and hip hop. I mean, these are subcultures that were created from working class people that feel a connection and feel a way about something and find a medium that allows them to articulate that and making it as powerful as it is. And I think that's, really the crux of art. Or it should be the crux of art.
Well, and they make it
unavoidable. Rich people
too.
get a hold of it. It turns into something else.
Yeah, they water it down, or they buy it up and then they bury it, right? Yeah. When you're talking about Pearl Jam there for a second, and even Thomas Kincaid, do you think, or for you, do you get bothered by the fact that some people can't see the medicine through the sugar on some of these shows? Because you said Pearl Jam does it so beautifully and Thomas Kincaid does it kind of in an inverse kind of way. Does it bug you when people say, oh yeah, they're so great X, Y, and Z, but they don't get the point? Like, for example, Even Flow, right? About homelessness.
Yeah.
You think about the frat guys rocking out to it in 92. It's like, you have no idea what this fucking song is about. Yeah. But like, it's not hard to understand. Does that bug you? Because that would frustrate the hell out of me if no one was getting the point.
I do want to clarify that I think Thomas Kincaid is shit. Just to get that out there.
That's the cold open, by the way, right there.
Yeah, it's. I think that. I mean, you can't help it if people are dumb.
It's not your responsibility to explain it to them, but you're writing a song for a reason.
There was like the politician that was like complaining about Rage Against the Machine being political. I liked you better before you were political. And it's just like you're that
listen
much
to
of
the
a
name
moron,
of the band.
and I love Tom Morello's response was something along the lines of like, you don't have to have a master's from Harvard in political science to have an opinion. Yeah. But as it turns out, I do have a master's from Harvard in political science. And so, like, I think this is a really good way of pointing out how important it is and how much we're missing sort of in education. People are not educating themselves. They're not paying attention to what's there. Music in especially the late 90s, early 2000s is a really good example of that. And I mean, you could see it in Woodstock, but you could also see it in some of the bands that for some reason are having a weird resurgence right now, but whatever, more power to them.
I got to tell you, man, like you're just incredibly, in the best of ways, self-assured and very, very clear-headed and confident in the art that you create. So I'm just curious, was there a moment while making this record where you discovered something about yourself that actually surprised you?
Yeah, the first record was all me. The second record was all me in terms of the lyrical writing, and had a little bit of help on a few things. Abe, one of my guitarists, has a few degrees in English and is a great editor. And so he helped me with some stuff on the second record, a few things.
Wait, hold on. He edits you because he talked my fucking ear off at the show.
He will help inform things, but like we have discussions because it was like in a spoken word piece, I'll say something and he'll be like, "Is that redundant?" I'm like, "It's poetry," so like that it doesn't work there, but like in other places it works. But this record, like, we had ideas. I knew what we were going to do. I knew what we wanted to do. I knew we needed a song about fascism. I knew we needed a song, like making some solid statements. But this was the most collaborative record of all three. I mean, the first record was what it was. The second record is an act 2 to the first record. The third record is all of us working together wholeheartedly. We shared writing. There's a couple of songs in there that are 100% me. And then the rest of them are anywhere from, 50% to, a third of me. And letting go with the desire to make good art, to make something good. And so, that was a really good exercise. And I'm not a terribly humble person. So, it's just, but it was like trying to put myself in a position of humility and just allow things to kind of be what they are. And I hope it comes through, because I think that all of us are, incredibly talented in our own ways, and allowing those other talents to come in and to share space ended up being, I think, really important.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people come to music looking for more than entertainment. I know I do. I think and it comes back to where I was as a kid, especially kind of preteen, high school years, where you're kind of looking to belong, right? What kind of community do you hope forms around this record?
I've said this in our live shows that, we're all, when people come to these shows, we're all in this together. We're here under sort of a flag of commonality. Hopefully that starts in music, and hopefully it arrives in a place of like-mindedness. But also, for all of the anger and the chastisement that exists within, some of the music, it's also out of love. I hope that in talking, in No Kings, talking about everything that's happening in our country, or in Circle Jerk the Wagons, talking about, when you bring hate to your door, don't be surprised. Like, when you speak hate, don't be surprised when hate shows up at your door. That those things are also on some level out of love, I'm pissed, and it fills with, that vitriol lives in a place of disgust and frustration of our current moment. But I want this country to be better. I want my fellow, citizens, my fellow human beings to be better to one another. I've seen a lot of people be good to each other, and I want everybody to be good to each other. I want everybody to experience what it's like to have a stranger show kindness to you. And our country is really in a tough place in that way. And so if there's a community to be built, it's a community that's rooted in love and compassion and a desire to just connect with others, do these things because we do these things because we love it. And I've been lucky enough to be in some spaces where I've seen that, and I've seen it at punk shows. Of course, you see it at a Pearl Jam show, and I'm hoping that we're able to sort of create that sort of culture as well. Because despite the anger, it's actually out of love and compassion.
It's interesting you say that. We spoke with Kim Thile not too long ago, and Kim was referencing these albums that really had a huge impact on him. He's talking about Led Zeppelin, Sex Pistols, Ramones, Sly and the Family Stone. At one point, mentions the Beatles, thinking about the Beatles, and, their Las Vegas show was called what? Love, right?
Oh, that's right.
Love.
I forgot.
So, biggest band of all time, right? And their show at Vegas is called Love. Mm-hmm. And I think it's an interesting correlation, Greg, that you make. But I'm curious, the conversation with you, the conversation we had with Kim, with so many artists that we've had on this show, the best music we feel, I think, are the albums and songs that feel timeless. So 20 years from now, what do you hope people will understand differently because artists like you refuse to stop making art?
Whew. Damn it, man. Why are you these questions? No, you got me on my toes.
You got to earn that sandwich. Good. You got to earn that sandwich, buddy.
That's right. I don't know. I mean, what's interesting about what we've been doing lyrically with Dead Pioneers, and the accompanying spoken word, is that all of that stuff is stuff that I've been saying and working on in one form or another, probably since high school. But arguably, let's say, over a 21 plus year career in art, which has also had activism and public speaking and everything. So there is a level of philosophy that works in just trying to figure out how to say something and how to do something.
Yeah.
The fact that something that I came up with in college is still relevant today is as mystifying to me as, hearing a Bush era Descendants song, American, that sounds more relevant to this administration than it did to the Bush administration when they sang that. Or, even to Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Ohio is just this song that is heartbreaking, but rooted in the disgust and the protest of what happened in Ohio. And so those things shouldn't still resonate, but they do, which apparently, or on some level, I suppose, is the human condition. And so maybe if I'm lucky, we're articulating something that lives within that human condition. And even if it's not relevant and, God willing, it's not relevant, talking about fascism isn't relevant in 20 years. But
80-year cycles,
we can hope.
But there's something, hopefully that you can connect with in terms of the emotion that's behind it and the things that are around it. I hope we can have that kind of stay, and have that sort of relevancy. But the weight and responsibility of that weighs on me all the time. I'm not writing a song being like, yes, it's relevant for the moment. Like, I'm writing something thinking about the poetry of it. And I'm not concerned about my legacy, but I understand that things live past my life. And so those words will exist somewhere down the line. So how do my kids see that? How do my grandkids see that? And so on down the line. And I think it's a fascinating idea, but also there's a lot of heaviness with that too. I don't know.
Well,
you totally caught me in I have these things that happen when we're releasing something new, these peaks and valleys of emotion. And I'm currently in the one of what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't, so I'm in this place where I'm geez, man, we just released The Worst Among Us, that we did with Jason Williamson, Sleaford Mods. And, I love this song so much. And I'm looking at the numbers and I'm not sure if it's doing okay or not. And it stresses me out. And so there's this other part where it's you want something to do well, but also the weight of it, if it lives for 20 or 30 years, there's something kind of really heavy there too.
Well, I don't want to bring Kim Thile back up again, but he's fresh in my mind because Paul mentioned him. But one thing he did say was that if you're not constantly asking yourself the question, well, what if I'm wrong? Which is basically just asking questions. Because if you're asking questions, that means you're implying that you don't know something, which is humility, which is great. Keep on striving to learn something.
Sure.
What's a question that people keep asking you about your music that misses the point of it all? And then conversely, what do you wish people would ask you?
Gosh, I don't... maybe it's, I'm glad that there's some doors open and some hearts open to the ideas that we've been able to put into our music. I am a firm believer that those doors wouldn't be open, those hearts wouldn't be open if it weren't for the Black Lives Matter movement opening all those doors during 2020, and allowing people from marginalized groups to have quarter in places that they never have had quarter before. And so I recognize that in the moment, people are paying attention and they're grasping at things because they have had something happen that allows them to understand that they should ask a question or pay attention at all. But there's another aspect of that, while I respect that and I appreciate, the spaces where we're being given quarter and the people are listening to particularly the indigenous aspects of Dead Pioneers, I also want things to be, I'm just a human being, and I like the same things that you do. And, I watch the same movies. And so there's this commodification that happens, and it happens all over the world. It happens in Germany because there's a weird relationship that Germany has with indigenous people because of this author, Karl May, that wrote about Native Americans in, I think, the 20s and 30s. But never met a Native person and never went to America, but he has these books that live in the conscience of German people. And so the contention is not cowboys and Indian movies and John Wayne and all this other stuff. The contention is these books that just live and are part of the culture of Germany that I have to contend with. And I don't want to contend with that. I just want to create art and bring things in. And so perhaps the questions that I miss is the philosophies of what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. Like, what is my connection, or any of my band members for that matter? Like, what is the connection to talking about these things? Why is it important? You know, why does that live in a place? Like, we can talk about class warfare. Our last record, we have a song about that. And that's something that everybody understands, but like, why is an Indigenous person talking about class warfare? You know, why?
Ask the next question.
Yeah. And what experience have you had that have helped you understand that? Because there is a universal experience in the United States, and that is being poor in the United States. And so, like, there's things that come with that, and with it come, I think, the philosophy of it, because I've lived in my head long enough to have some ideas about what that looks like and what that sounds like. But those questions aren't usually asked. It's questions about the Native stuff and questions about the band, how the band come together. That's about it.
Are people just lazy, or you're right there, so you're the convenient Google, or
No.
Why aren't people digging deeper?
I mean, the questions that are being asked, I think, are all pretty straightforward questions that a journalist should ask, or even just a fan. But fans generally want to share something with you. They don't want to hear what you've said. They want you to hear and see them, which is fine. And I think that's great. So I found that, shutting my mouth and listening, why did you come here? Like, who did you come with, and where are you from? These are the things that open doors for folks. They want to share with me or with Josh or any of our other bandmates that why they're in that space and why it's important to them. But journalists don't really ask, like, the questions that you're asking. I don't get questions that deep generally, and I appreciate it and think that there's more there. But also, word counts and deadlines and everything else come into play with that stuff. So
we live in an era where so much of culture is built around visibility, branding, and performance. And I think whether you're an influencer or whether you're an artist or whether you're a state figurehead, whatever it happens to be, so much of that centers around that. Is some of the largest figures in today's political spectrum are very much rooted in visibility, branding, and performance. I'll stop there. But I say that because there's so much of what you do and what what you do with your bandmates. I keep hearing the same thing reverberating back at me, which is see me, right? But not in like a shallow way. This isn't about clicks and likes, and this is like see me. You know what I mean? Like understand me. Like take the time to know me. And I think that when those bridges are created and those connections are made, then therein lies the capacity for love, right? And I find that interesting on a lot of levels, and I think it kind of brings me to an interesting place with this last question that I think that I want to ask you. When we think about the work that you're doing, and the music that you're making, and I think that this is unique, not just to you specifically, Greg, but just kind of like in general. When you hear this line, a message from Mr. Bell, none of us are free until all of us are free.
Yeah.
Part of that freedom is being seen. Like, what do you think music's role is in making that a reality?
Yeah, I suppose on some level, like, to know me is to know yourself. To know Indigenous people as an American citizen and to understand the history of what's there is to know your place in America. and to understand how all of those things came to be. So to love me is also to love yourself. And the idea of that none of us are free until all of us are free is a statement of community. That's a statement of responsibility to one another. You know, I can't look at a trans person and believe that their lack of rights somehow strengthens mine. Mm-hmm. Their rights are human rights, and those human rights continue to protect my rights, because those rights are supposed to be inherent. You don't get to choose who deserves and who doesn't deserve inherent rights. And that's something that I think that the Christian industrial complex is co-opting and bastardizing, because, you know, even looking at, in general terms, not to get religious or anything, because I'm not wanting to do that, but like the teachings of Christ are that the worth of souls is significant and great in the eyes of God. And that's even lost in the discussion, you know, within the Christian industrial complex. And so if we lose that, if you can dehumanize me, you yourself are becoming a monster, because you're deciding that somebody doesn't have worth. And the moment that we become moral monsters or immoral monsters is the moment that we lose our humanity. And the moment we lose our humanity, then we lose each other. You cannot love if you hate. And that doesn't mean you have to be someone's best friend, but it does mean that you can look at a human being and understand that a human being has worth, and that their worth is reflective of your worth. So if you give no value to somebody, you are in effect giving no value to yourself. That stuff's so wildly important, and there is an entire political and social movement happening in our country and out of our country that would tell you that that's weak, and that it's not manly, that it's not masculine, and that it is rooted in a weakness that is infecting our country and allowing our country to fail. And I don't see how that's the case. We already know that if everybody makes enough money and has health care, that the mental health situation completely disappears on some level, pretty much disappears, because we're not stressed out about paying our bills, and we're not stressed out about, like, my teeth are jacked right now and I don't have insurance, so I can't go to the dentist and just get it taken care of. I know it's going to be a hefty bill in order to get that taken care of. And that shit is stressful because I got mental health stuff in my house, and my kid just broke his arm a few months ago, and like that bill's hanging over. Like, all of this stuff hangs over me. And when you're caught up in your own shit, it's so hard to have compassion for others when you're pissed off and stressed out. And so we already know that those things can be fixed and allow us to value other people and have compassion for other people is compassion for ourselves.
Well, you said it a bit earlier, when actually Paul referenced it as well. For me, the music that hits home the most is the music that makes me feel seen and understood without having for me to ask you to ask me how I'm doing. And I think when I does that make sense? So when I listen to my favorite music, and obviously, you know, a lot of that, the music behind me does a lot of that very well. But I told you when you sent over the record, Wagon Burner, weeks ago, I told you I thought it was your best one yet. And the reason why I think it's the best one yet is because I grab onto so much of it, so much more, and go, fuck yes, I feel that exact fucking thing more than, and I feel that way about a lot of songs you guys have, but more cohesively than ever. Did those sentiments swim or ride the waves of the music more coherently, if I may? So for me, and I think my opinion matters more than anybody else's. I'm kidding. But I will say that everybody should go get Wagon Burner because it's available June 26th. And I am super thankful that you've come back to talk to us, Gregg. You and I talk every now and again, and you're a treat of a person. So I appreciate you in life, but also coming on.
I appreciate you guys and appreciate your opinions, and I don't know, it's really interesting, like not to be cheesy and take it back to, Pearl Jam, but like knowing those records, particularly for me, the ones that came out when I was in high school or just out of high school, and then seeing them play and then being on tour with them and seeing sort of what's happening on the back end, but also being a fly on the wall and watching fans and watching the way that Ed is sort of communicating with people and the way people react to that. And there's something about that just taught me a lot in terms of not just the responsibility, but also just like trying to lean in to how wildly important those connections are. And that, I'm a believer that you shouldn't make something unless you stand by it. Like you should be as stoked about what you make as anybody. If you don't like it, no one else is going to like it. and so like there's an aspect of that which creates a labor of love. I was really concerned with this record. I was like, man, is it too much like Nazi Teeth, No Kings, Circle Jerk the Wagons, LFG, like all these songs are just sort of these higher energy songs. But we got a couple songs in there where we're singing and there's a softness to it, because like I got the range of a BB gun, but like, there's a softness to actually trying to create music and a musicality that we haven't done before. But like even Never Alone with the Interrupters, like it's not a ballad, it's not a soft song, but I've heard from more than one person that song just makes them emotional because it's about connection and found family and about having compassion for one another, so that we can all raise each other up, and that there is something about that, being 15 years old and connecting with something, and now being an adult and still connecting with something, and all those things are important. I am a sucker for a morose, sad, depressing song, and I have yet to make one of those. But
you're due. Fourth record. I can't wait. Gregg Deal, Dead Pioneers. This is not the album cover, but it sure is a good hat. Why am I not wearing this one? I'll just wear this for the rest of the show. Go check out Dead Pioneers wherever they're playing live near you, because it's a fucking good time. And Abe Brennan will talk your ear off after the show. But also, June 26th, Wagon Burner, third LP from Dead Pioneers. Gregg Deal, you're one step closer to a sandwich.
Thanks for being with us tonight, Greg.
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you again to our friend Greg for stopping by. I got the hat on.
I wish I had a graduation hat with a little tassel as well, but I don't. I should, though.
I feel like I graduated humanities or some sort of civil, history, something, how to be a good person.
Yeah. How to Be Human by Gregg Deal.
Oh, that's a good one. Actually, he said something that was really interesting. He goes, and honestly, I don't remember if this was in the episode or not, post tapes, but he said something like, I don't know why the devil needs an advocate.
Yeah.
That's actually going to be a song about J.D. Vance. You can have that one for free, Greg.
Oh, gosh.
Anyways, if you love that kind of witty banter, but more importantly, the episode that just happened, in interviews like that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel here and like the video with the bing with the thumb and hit the bell for notifications. Thank you for that. But if listening only, Paul?
You are rating, you are reviewing, and you are subscribing on your preferred podcast platform of choice. Feed that algorithm so that we may all become one with each other. Oh, yeah,
that is so nice.
Feeling very human after that combo.
You could also be one with our Instagram by going to the links below and click and a little follow, and that would help other people find this fabulous content. Not what's happening right now, but the long part before with Greg. And if you really like this kind of stuff, then please go ahead and visit our Patreon or our pod shop and we really appreciate anybody who goes there and does stuff and buys stuff. So thank you for that. Great stuff coming. We're going to have a couple of weeks off because there's a lot of work stuff happening in the background that's going to like clog up my production arteries. But we'll be back very, very soon to have many more conversations that you will enjoy, I assure you. So stick around. We'll be back in a bit. And until then, Paul, you've been listening to or watching
The State of Love and Trust.